pulse of the VI. Listen close and you will see why. The information will set you free. Stand together, never divide. Pulse VI.
Good afternoon, Virgin Islands. This is BBI Chick.
BVI Chick.
Yes, today I have TravP with me. He's the
TravP
wolf
in the
bee.
building.
Listen to him. Yes, he's joining us as Swain and Binter are away. So
Shout out
they're
Swain,
out
shout
doing their
out
thing.
Binter.
And TravP is going to hang with us today. How you doing, TravP?
I'm doing great. Great week. How you say your week has been?
Oh my God, my week is always hectic at work, but I still try to keep up with what's going on in the community. Yeah, I see the government took $11.4 million as settlement for the admin building. Everyone's upset about that, but we don't know how much they put a claim in for, so I guess
That's true.
we have to go with what they accept, right?
Yep, we do.
I know people are coming down hard on Sean, Mohammed, and Najiko, but the insurance company is going to do what they're going to do.
They are.
What you got going on?
Busy week. Shout out to Infinite. I work at Infinite for those who don't know. I'm a copier printer technician. Shout out to all my coworkers. They're great people. Just want to shout out to them. They work really hard. Being there, it taught me there's a time and place for everything. Time to work, time to play. You know what I'm saying? Pretty close knit, great people.
Lovely.
So shout out to all of them. Last night I was in Rotaract. I'm a part of the Rotaract Club as well. I won the award for the Rotaractor of the third quarter.
Oh, wow. That's
They gave
awesome.
me a cup.
Congratulations.
Thank you. They gave me a cup with the brand on it, and my name was on it as well. And I just tucked it in a little bag. I messaged my mom, and I told her, you know, I'm not going to use this cup. I'm going to save it for you.
Oh,
I want you to have it. So I
that's so
just packaged
sweet.
it up. I took it away in my closet, and I want her to have it. I want her to use
That's
it. All
so
my Rotaract
sweet.
stuff, I would want her to have it. Yeah.
That's commendable of you. A mommy's boy, huh?
I am.
That's good. That's good. What else you had going on all week?
Just walk like Rihanna.
Oh, yeah?
Walk like Rihanna.
Oh, okay. Guess what? Yesterday was 420. You know what 420 is?
I know 420 means.
Oh, my God. Is the BBI ready to make any moves on that?
You know, good thing you said that. Actually, there was a news story that broke. I saw it on Instagram where they said Foxy was gearing up to host the first ever hemp and cannabis festival on Joss Van Dyke.
He sure is in July.
And I was like, Foxy, what I like for real?
Hey.
Like, that's really gonna happen?
Well,
Could
you
it?
know what? It might increase tourism.
It might.
You don't think so?
I think so. I think so. It can.
Yeah, and I think...
What if when he's having the show, like unexpectedly, like Snoop Dogg shows up or something? I'll be like,
I mean, right now he's scouting talent to perform, so we never know who's going to show up. We never know.
we never know.
It might be great. So, you know, what else you got going on? What else happened this week? This week was, you know, we had some burials of prominent people in the community. We have Mr.
did.
Ira Smith. Last weekend was Speedy's funeral, which was a big entourage. I mean, I think it gave competition to Winnie Mandela's funeral.
I saw some pictures.
They had
did.
ferries
And
and
those guys
all
are
that
dressed
stuff.
like with the white, with the captain.
In the
I was like,
sailor
oh,
outfit, yeah.
real sharp. Like, man, Halloween, I should probably do something like this.
And then
try to
yesterday
look
was
sharp.
Mr. Ira Smith. I know they did, after the service, they did a ocean tour. They put the casket on the boat and took it down to West End and brought it back into town.
yeah?
So yeah, I mean, we're doing big funerals here. Like, I mean, we're giving dignitaries competition.
And today was Elton George's.
Yes, that was.
Just wrapped up over by Marbles Burial
Yeah.
Grounds.
And, you know, they had the memorial service for him on Thursday night. So he had kind of like a state funeral, not full state, but partial state. So that's commendable because he donated a lot, contributed so much to the society. So.
I personally didn't know him. My sister knows him well.
Oh, okay.
He was a Rotarian. I was actually at the Rotary meeting the day after he passed, and I
Okay.
saw QC Gerard Ferrara speak about him, and I was like, wow, this guy was amazing, man.
He
the
sure
way
did.
The way he spoke on him, and he was there for a while, and I listened to every word. And it was just great how he spoke on him. And I said, wow, his life must have really made an impact on a lot of different people.
He was
First
really
Lady
good.
Lorna Smith, she spoke on him as well. And she said
Okay.
he was an excellent person. So yeah, rest in peace to Elton George.
Yes, rest in peace. So you're a Rotaracker, huh?
I am.
How is that going? You love it?
It's going great. I love Rotaract. I would say it made a positive impact on my life thus
Nice.
far. I tried to get Binta to come and call out Binta. Binta, I tried to get you to come here, didn't want to come, so I'm calling you out.
That's cool. That's
But
cool.
when you try to get people to join Rotaract, the first thing they always tell you is, I don't have the time. I'm like, what do you mean by you don't have the time? What are you really doing on a Friday afternoon between 5 and 6:30?
Okay.
Like, you can't spare us an hour.
So
and a
that's
half of
every
your
week
time.
for you guys?
Every 3, yeah. I think the third Friday we don't. We have a social.
Okay, and what's the age group for Rotaract?
Between 18 and 30.
Okay, cool. And what's the recruitment process like? Like, is it like something hard to get in? Because I know that might scare some people.
It's not hard. I would just say you come to the meetings, just come and make your attendance be known. You come out to the service projects.
Okay.
And once you keep coming, they'll interview you and you'll get in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So once you leave Rotaract, then you transition to Rotary.
Rotary is from 30 beyond.
Okay, it's for the older folks, huh?
The older folks, yeah.
Okay,
but they encourage us to come to their meetings as well.
Oh, that's good. I've been to a Rotary meeting as a guest for my boss. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. I like how if you're late, you have to pay.
You have to pay a fee. Most times, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's all good for charity. So that's good.
Something else that happened in the news was Brigada Flax Educational Center won the 2018
They
national
sure
debate.
did. That little girl went on.
What's the name?
I can't remember her name.
But shouts out to you. You do.
Yes. And I think Elmer Stout High School came in second. So that's awesome. Especially after, the hurricane and what the students went through and the school system being not fully operational.
High school.
Yeah. So, I big up to the kids and the teachers too and the whole system,
everybody, that works at debating is not easy. I mean, I tried debating for like a week, but it didn't last. But it seems interesting. I might probably get back into it if I get some time,
Lots of research. And
lots of research.
I think the key is that you have to really believe and stand for what you believe.
Yeah.
So that you could bring it across.
Effectively, yes.
Right. Okay, well, that's good. Anything else that happened this week?
Last week, Saturday, the R&R complex was on fire. I'm not sure if you heard that.
It broke my heart because
someone was injured. I think 2 people got injured.
Yeah, a fireman, and I think I know the other guy that got injured. So that really broke my heart because, When I got the news from the mainland, someone texted me and told me.
Someone that was there on site?
No, the mainland.
Oh, the mainland, yeah.
Yes. Text me and tell me that the building is on fire and someone is on fire. And I'm like, no. I checked all the websites. Nothing.
And nobody said nothing?
Nothing. So I'm like, finally something came up, but they didn't mention anyone hurt. So I'm like, I think no one is hurt. And then I heard it after, and I heard who it was. Yeah. And it broke my heart because I think he has second degrees burn.
They said second and third, actually.
Oh my God.
I was like, wow.
That's so sad.
So that's sad. Speedy recovery to the 2 people.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, scary when something like that happens because, it's such a small community. Everyone knows everyone. So you feel sympathetic and, concerned. So, shout out to them and hope that they have a speedy recovery.
Yes.
So what else is new?
Do you watch basketball? The NBA playoffs is in full effect right now.
Okay. I used to be a basketballer.
Who's your favorite basketball player of all time?
My favorite, oh my God, Allen Iverson.
Iverson, yes.
Yes, I was an Iverson fan. I could tell you how old I am, huh? I'm giving my age away. Okay, don't laugh. But I used to watch basketball, but you know what? I haven't gotten into it since I moved back home. I don't know why, but when I lived away, it was like I was a sport fanatic. Like I would watch every sport, and I came home and it's like my life has changed.
You don't follow it anymore?
Nope.
So are you aware of what's going on now?
I don't even know what's going on.
So if you had to make like a guess on who you think is going to win it all, like just based off of what you heard so far.
I haven't heard anything. You tell me what's going on. Who? You said the playoffs are going on, so who's in it?
The Pacers, Cavs. The Pacers are up 2-1 against the Cavs right now. Toronto is up 2-1 against the Wizards.
Oh,
Celtics.
Wizards! I lived in D.C. Go
Washington,
Wizards!
Yeah. Hopefully they could bounce back. It seems interesting so far because a lot of these matchups, like the team Pelicans, they're with the number 6 seed in the Western Conference against the number 3 seed Trailblazers, and they're up 3-0 against them and they're
Okay.
ranked lower than the Trailblazers right now, and people
Okay.
are roasting them right now. The Trailblazers
Okay,
on
who's the
social media.
Pelicans?
New Orleans Pelicans,
Okay.
Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday,
Okay.
Rajon Rondo, great players.
Okay.
I caught some of the highlights of the game. I don't have cable as yet.
Okay. Well,
I
none
don't
of
know
us have cable. I don't
We
think
don't know when we're gonna be in that cable right now.
I guess they're working on it. Let's
They're
just
working
say
on
they're
it.
working on it. Get a Fire Stick and hopefully get a personal VPN for it to work.
Eh,
Because without that, you're still streaming at very slow pace.
something else that happened yesterday was J. Cole. He dropped an album.
Oh my God, I saw it all over Facebook, and yeah.
I got to listen to it. A friend of mine came by my office and said, shout out to Javon. He came by, he let me hear some of it. Some of the tracks that stand out, I would say, is a song called, first of all, the album is named KOD. It's an
Okay.
acronym that actually stands for King Overdose, Kids on Drugs, and Kill Our Demons.
Oh wow.
So it has 3 different meanings.
Okay.
It's 12 songs in total, two features. Same person, Kill Edward. I think they're saying it's like his alter ego, something like
Okay.
that. Similar to Sasha Fierce with Beyonce,
Yes,
something like
yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah, so some of the tracks that stand out, I would say, the KOD track, Photograph. He's talking about, I guess people fall in love on social media. Fall in love
okay.
with the,
Okay.
pictures. ATM, you have a song called Kevin's Heart, which is like a play on words for Kevin Hart. I
Okay.
don't know if you're familiar with the situation going on with him right now.
No, but tell me what's going on. I'm lost. That's
Yeah,
Binter's
he's caught
job.
up in
Binter's
like
job
a-
is all that
in like a
stuff.
kind of scandal right now. So J. Cole made a song similar around that.
Oh wow, what kind of scandal? Give me a little bit about that.
I'm not sure the full detail. I don't really follow gossip news like that.
Okay.
He has a song called Brackets as well,
Okay.
as well as Window Pane and 1985. Those are like the standout tracks.
Okay. Well, and I think I saw that Kanye West dropped a new CD also, but only 7 songs or something.
No, he's gearing up to
Okay.
soon.
Okay.
But he hasn't
But I
dropped
think
it
it's
as
only 7 songs or something they say.
I
or
don't
more.
think they
I
gave
think he's
him how
doing
much-
2 at the same time or something like that.
I'm not sure all the details on
something
Kanye.
strange.
But hopefully it'll be good when he comes out. I don't think Kanye is washed up. Me and Tuma were actually talking about this earlier this week. And I was
Okay.
telling him it would be interesting battle between J. Cole and Kanye if they were to do it. And he was like, too much pressure. Kanye
okay.
wouldn't last, something like that.
Okay.
So shout out to Tuma real quick.
Okay, cool. And I know you have a new song out. Do you want
I
to talk
do.
a little bit about that?
Am I Worth It featuring Killer Tuma. Yes, it's up on SoundCloud, TravP6, if you want to
Okay.
follow. Yeah,
Cool.
check it
And
out.
how has it been doing so far? What's the
Everything
reception
has been
like?
Going great. The reception is great. Got some positive feedback
Okay.
from within the camp and some close people that I know.
Okay, cool. So everyone check that out. And this week also, one of the things that I realized, and I think the world realized, is the buying power of Black people
Yes.
with the Starbucks issue.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Starbucks.
Yes, that, they're trying to clean it up, doing some damage control, but I think the damage has already been done.
It has.
When you look at the timelines.
I don't think I'll be going back to Starbucks.
I know, I was hardworking
Me
because I'm a caramel macchiato type of girl.
I don't really do coffee, but I mean, I've been there before, but I don't think, especially after seeing this, I was like,
Okay, I'm the
No, I don't think I'll
person,
go
as
back.
soon as I get off the plane, I'm looking for the first Starbucks. That's me. So my sister is like, you can't buy any more Starbucks. Find
Boycott.
something else.
Boycott.
I'm like, oh, God, my heart broke. But, yeah, I mean, I think that hopefully those corporations realize that, we have strong buying power. And if we're not respected,
I was
we'll
actually
take
watching
our
the
money
interview on
elsewhere.
that, and the guy was saying they were there. What time did they get there?
I think it was 2
4:30,
minutes, but it was
2
2
minutes
minutes
in, like,
and
they
she called the cops.
Call the police. I'm
Yeah.
like, why
Yeah.
would you want to do something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So I mean, it's interesting, but
I mean, and it's kind of like you feel like kind of with me being a young black male too. I mean, it could happen to any one of us. You
Oh,
know what I'm saying?
definitely.
Anybody could have just walked. I could have been in there just saying no, just probably waiting for somebody.
yeah,
And then it's like,
Yeah,
you
I
have to
always-
leave, It's like,
yeah. I always
why?
speak to my son about being aware, because
of what's going on around him.
yes,
Yeah.
because you just never know, and you don't want that. Sometimes your reaction, your body movement takes off the cops. I mean, you don't want to live like that because that's no way to live, but you still have to be aware. All right, guys, those are the hot picks this week for us. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Up next, we have Mr. Richard Georges. You're
Richard
listening
Georges.
to Pulse BI on 90.9 Caribbean Superstation. Stay locked, and we'll be right back.
Pulse VI.
And we're back. You're listening to Pulse VI 90.9 Caribbean Superstation. And we're here with Mr. Richard Georges.
Mr. Richard Georges.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing? All's well?
Yeah, as well as it can be, I think. Yeah,
Good afternoon, Mr. Georges. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
We're so happy that you joined us. I was doing some research once we got you booked for the show, and I'm telling you, I told Binta, I said, Binta, there's not enough time. This man, I mean, like, how does he do it? It's so much. My God. Where does your inspiration come from? Where did that start? When?
With respect to poetry,
To poetry.
you know, I have a, you know, I was doing my dissertation, my PhD a few years ago, and I really wanted to focus on, you know, the work that was done in this place,
Okay.
you know, that is really underknown and underappreciated, you know. So like, you know, the way that we think about literature in the BVI, I think needs to be matured, it needs to be developed, needs to be
Okay.
revolutionized. I think, you know, if we do a little bit of research like I did, you'll find that we've had people who've been writing and writing seriously, you know, from the 1800s.
Okay.
And when I say that, I don't just mean, you know, colonial, you know, or English colonial planters here, right? I'm talking about, you know, people who look like you and me.
Okay.
You know, I mean, our ancestors have been here and they've been writing and they've been thinking about this place and how it fits into history and how it fits into the world in very interesting and provocative ways.
Right.
And I think I feel a certain obligation to sort of talk back or respond to those voices from, you know, 100 years ago,
Wow, that's deep.
and also to really sort of awaken or open the ears of, you know, the contemporary BVI to those voices, as well as to what we should be writing and speaking about. I have this one premise that if we don't enable or facilitate our people to tell our stories, someone's going to come and tell our stories for us.
That's true.
So
That's true.
it
That's true.
behooves, you know, it behooves us to support artists, writers, musicians, painters, sculptors, all of that.
Okay.
You know, it behooves us to have that, the arts, the performing arts, the visual or literary arts, you know, the culinary arts, supported and facilitated from primary school all the way to college. It behooves us
I agree.
as citizens
Right.
to support the people who follow those endeavors. And that's the only way that we can really have a really enriched and accessible and a better understanding of our culture, and therefore who we are and where we are and
Wait.
why we are.
Very important, very important. I'm going to say that a lot of people probably listen to you because the response, when we only posted up on Thursday that you're going to be the guest, and the response has been overwhelming, very far reached. I mean, really, really.
Probably
That-
a lot of my students.
Well, you know, people that love you and people that follow you and support you. You know, I mean,
That's humbling.
do you have any questions or anything you want him to discuss, Trav?
One of my questions would be, what do you think about the future of arts in the Virgin Islands? Right now we have Angela Burnett with the Alma Diary. She's touring the U.S. We also have some local artists that are doing really well. What would
and
you say?
people like yourself.
People like myself, Telatuma,
Uh-huh.
and some other people. Where would you see arts is heading right now?
Well, I would say, okay, let me preface this with a couple of things, right? So first, you know, with the exception, possibly historically, of how well supported the music program at Elmo Stout has been for decades, right? The arts have kind of, I wouldn't say fallen by the wayside, but there hasn't been a consistent investment in it. And that's not necessarily an indictment on any particular government. I think it's also an indictment on us,
Right.
you know, as private citizens, because government, you know, at the end of the day, and I think people are learning that, no, government can't finance everything.
That's
Right.
true.
And we can't really expect government to finance everything.
Finance everything.
But, you know, so we as citizens, you know, as BV Islanders, you know, should be invested in what is created, what is produced in the BVI.
Right.
And I think despite the lack of a lot of infrastructure, despite the lack of a lot of funding, you look around and there's just, for such a small space, there is talent
So much
everywhere.
talent. So much talent.
Everywhere. I mean, there are the folks who put together the sort of like those prideful BVI brands. You know, there's the BVI and
Christian Fraser.
yeah, there's
Trefle.
Trefle. and there's a
Virgin
couple
Islands,
others.
sir.
Yeah.
Is that how it says?
I mean, and so you see that, and that's just, you know, people thinking about fashion and dress and like branding. You know, so it's a really inspiring thing to see someone just say, well, I'm just going to do this.
Right.
And then you see, I think there's a generation of BV Islanders. I think some of the previous generations are a bit more cynical, right? But there's a current generation right now that embraces their local creativity.
Right. And the movement is on.
Yeah, and I think
It is.
so. I think the job now, and I think it's a public and private job, is to find ways best to facilitate and develop, you know, those kinds of people across across disciplines, across their fields,
Right.
you know, whatever kind of art or they're creating. Because I tell you one thing, the creation of art is the creation of culture.
Yes,
You know,
that's
and
true.
we have to stop thinking of culture as what them used to do long time.
That's
And,
true.
you know, we confuse culture with heritage a lot.
Yeah, I would say that.
But culture is what we as a people do, what our customs are, what our norms are,
Right.
you know, what our values are, and how we relate to each other. That's what culture is, and that's like a constantly evolving thing,
Right.
right? So, BVI, Virgin Islands Answer,
Trefle.
Trefle, Angela Burnett Penn, you know, the painters, you know, yourself,
Wolfpack.
you know,
Pack.
that's BVI culture right now.
Right.
You understand me? So when we think about culture, we can't just keep harking back to something that was, you know, a 30-year period in the early part of the last century and think that's the end-all, be-all of BVI culture. No.
Right. So
You
what
know.
do you think we need to put in place to get us to that place? What actions need to take place? And who are going to be the key players to bring about what we need to put the culture where it needs to be?
That's a great question.
The first thing, and let me not. First off, let me not be. This is not me being prescriptive. I'll
Right.
give my opinion.
Of course, of
But, you know,
course.
and of course, I'm open, of course, to all sorts of other ideas
Of
and
course.
things. But I would think, you know, there have been some integral and pivotal movements towards what needs to be done.
Great.
Right. So, for example, the fact that we have a territorial song, the fact that there's a territorial pledge, a territorial dress,
Dress,
and so on
right.
and so forth. I mean, I didn't have that growing up as a
That's
kid in the
true.
school system. My little daughter, who's 4 years old, knows the words to the territorial song.
She could probably sing it, huh?
Right. So that tells you that people are hungry for something to hold on to that is theirs. Right. That they sing that with with gusto. You know. So those are the kinds of things like cultural markers that we set down and say, okay, you know, when we think about what it means to be a BV Islander or to be of the British Virgin Islands, you know, this is part of it. This is another part of it,
Right,
and so
right.
on and so forth. And the more that we can, you know, embrace that and have young people, especially, you know,
Right.
from primary school up, you know, start to be exposed to more BVI culture and not
Right.
for it to be this like 3-decade window of it, you know, so that there's value in bringing in, you know, your painters.
Right.
You know, one thing that I wonder about, you know, like we since I've been in education for, you know, quite some time now, about 20 years almost,
Wow.
is that we constantly tell young people, we divert them away from the humanities, from
and
the
the-
visual arts, the
Yes,
performing arts, from
yes,
music.
yes.
They say, oh, no.
You need to do business.
Yeah, do business or
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
computer science or go do law. or
Which
go
is
do
very
doctor.
old school because
I
that's
mean-
how I was raised. And
Right,
you would
I mean-
hope that in this time, we move away from that.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, ultimately, I mean, when I advise students, you know, I tell them, you know, and, you know, people might not think this is good advice, but I tell them to follow their passion.
Follow
You know,
your heart.
If you
That's the best advice.
right, so
Best.
you jump into a career or first stream of study and then a career that you aren't passionate about, that's a recipe for unhappy life.
Unhappy
You know,
life.
very soon. You know, so I think it's best to follow your passion first, and then, you know, you kind of have to have that trust that if you can develop yourself into an excellent purveyor of that particular career,
Right.
then, you know, good things will come from it.
Right.
You know, so
Okay.
I think that's been proven. We had you know, Ayaz.
Ayaz. Ayaz
Yeah.
is someone I was talking about. Shout out to Ayaz. When I first heard him, I really liked his music. It being different because we would usually do rap, but he was doing like a little bit of the pop, a little bit more
He
than
found,
rap.
he found what
his,
works
yeah,
for
he found
him.
what works for
He
him.
found
Yeah.
he found a niche. And I think
Yeah.
you know, you can't really find a niche until you are, you know, knee deep, elbow deep in that thing that you love.
Right.
You know, and putting in the hours to discover that niche.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know,
that's
because
true.
I'm sure Ayaz didn't, you know,
That's
start
true.
performing, start singing, and then have that niche immediately. You know, you have to work towards it.
Right.
You know, so I think we need to encourage and enable young people and give them the freedom
Right.
to do that, and that's only going to be beneficial for our entire community, you know, and our entire culture.
But again, you have to look at it. I mean, on how people like define success too, because you know they want you to be successful, but then when you follow your passion, it's like, you know, like if you do that, you
That's
probably
true.
wouldn't be as successful as, you know, such and such and such.
Well, because we let society
Society.
dictate, right? Do you have like any advice you would want to give to any aspiring poets and authors? Like, I mean, did anyone, when you were starting out, did you have like a favorite poet that, you know, inspired you, or did you have anyone that gave you any advice as to how to navigate? Because to me, poetry is such a special art form. You know what I mean? It's so special.
You know, I was really, I guess, really lucky.
Okay.
You know, I grew up in a home that was always filled with books, and you know, I had parents who were readers and who were always interested in and invested in the arts.
Okay.
And you know, that was always, you know, encouraged. So when I was in elementary school or primary school, you know, we used to like make our own comic books and like trade them back and
yeah.
forth and stuff.
Yeah.
You just draw them, and then, you know, so that kind of stuff was always encouraged. And I think so there's that, you know, what is the culture at home, you know,
Right.
when it comes to literature, the literary
Yeah.
arts. So that I was very lucky with that.
Okay.
And I had a grandfather who I'd come home from school early, and he would be the only one home, and he would just give me books, and he would give me books that were, he didn't care about things like reading levels.
Right. He
You
just
know?
give
Just
you.
give
Yeah, so whatever I thought was interesting on his shelf, he just gave it to me to read.
Oh, wow.
And so I was challenging, but that also helped me develop a certain I guess appreciation for books
Okay.
and for what they could do. In terms of what I would recommend, and then I also had a long line of supportive teachers,
Great.
you know, who would encourage
The backbone of
Yeah.
a lot of success.
yeah, and if I started listening now, I'll be here until 4 o'clock. But you know, from as a kid, you know, primary school, in secondary school, I went to the college here,
Right.
and as well as in university. All throughout my entire life, been very lucky to have a lot of great mentors.
Awesome.
But the one piece of advice that trumps all of that stuff, if you want to be a writer of anything, is to read voraciously, is to read, you know, with an appetite that cannot be sated.
Wow.
You know, if you aren't reading, I'm sorry, you can't write. You know, so like TravP, you rap.
I do.
So if you didn't listen to any rap music, could you rap?
No.
Okay, so, and I heard him talking about the J.
New
Cole
song.
album,
Yeah,
right?
the new J. Cole album.
So if you want to be a rapper, right, and you want to be a rapper that's rapping at his zenith, at the top of his potential,
Right.
he has to be listening to what's out there, what
Right.
people are doing. And I'm sure he's listening to stuff that was, you know, 20 and 30 years ago.
Right.
You know, because if you want to master a craft, you have to know what that craft is about.
That's true.
So if you want to write, I don't care what it is, if it's a self-help book, you know, poetry, fiction, memoir, nonfiction, history, whatever you want to write, you have to be reading that genre, you know, voraciously, religiously.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to, you know, get to where you need to be as a writer.
Awesome. Guys, Mr. Richard Georges, dropping all the gems. You have to read, read, read voraciously if you want to write. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. You're listening to Pulse VI on 90.9 Caribbean Superstation. And when we get back, we'll go ahead and ask Mr. Georges what he thinks about Foxy's cannabis festival coming up. And then he'll share with us some of the things he has going on. Be right back.
Pulse VI.
Guys, we're back on 90.9 FM, Caribbean Superstation, Pulse VI, and we're with Mr. Richard Georges. We're going to go ahead and let Mr. Georges tell us a little bit about his book. He has 2 books, I think, Giant and Make Us All Islands. And I read a little bit of both. One of the poems that touched me was one I think you wrote to your uncle, Uncle Miniman.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, that poem's called Little Lion.
Yeah.
My uncle Earl, all right, aka Mini Man, was a Rasta. He's a farmer in Marival, in Mayaro, the north coast of Trinidad.
Okay.
And so he died in a car accident. And so we family kind of congregated in northern Trinidad, out in the bush,
Yeah.
And I really he was sort of a very interesting figure, sort of like in touch with his roots in a different kind of way than we usually think of. He wasn't one of those. Yeah, he's a conscious Rasta, but he wasn't one of those that was a preacher, if you will.
Okay.
Okay.
He wouldn't try to force it on you.
No. I mean, he was kind of sort of a stoic, kind of quiet, kind of figure, but very. But there was a strength and almost a rigidity to him that was pretty interesting because he was. I wouldn't say he was anti-technology, but he lived a very humble life. So he tilled the land, and his wife and his children, and I think he has about 5 children, and children would go to school, and they would come back, and then they would sell his produce, for him, on the roadside that was kind of far from the house and the planting ground, but he just had this kind of I say kind of an aura about him. And which was funny because he was tiny, So my mom, for anyone who knows my mom is not the tallest woman, but she was the tallest of her siblings, and she's like 5'2".
Oh wow.
So when I say mini man, I'm not not playing. He's probably about Uncle Earl's probably about 4'10", 4'11" if I give him an inch.
Okay.
And when he went back for this funeral, it was really, and he was the youngest of the siblings. So it was really, a crushing kind of loss
Right.
that, some members of the family couldn't really deal with until, I think a lot of times you see at a funeral, people are coping, but that moment when the casket begins to lower into the grave is like a very, it's almost like an epiphany.
Right.
That this is it.
Sinking in.
Yeah.
That this is it. Yeah.
This is it.
And so while there was a lot of, song and music and dance in the wake and stuff before, and a lot of wild game because of, it's country life.
Yeah.
And, and people who don't have much but are sharing everything with you.
Right.
And then, so there's all of this music and celebration before, but in that moment, the grief comes out. And I think that's what I was trying to catch in that poem, that he was this, sort of stoic, sort of rather interesting character, and not somebody that I necessarily agreed with everything he did, and I think his siblings had that kind of tension, that kind of complexity to the relationship, where they loved him and they supported him, and they supported that he wanted to live his life in a particular way, but then, some of them might feel kind of way about what that meant for his kids,
Right.
and how much of a choice, they had to live this Rasta lifestyle out in the middle of nowhere, and tilling the land and selling produce and stuff. So there was this like romantic side to, a pure Rastafarian lifestyle. You know, no, there's Rasta and there's Rasta, and he was Rasta. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that pure Rastafarian lifestyle is kind of like removed from a lot of things that we take for granted.
Right.
And then the reality of that, what that meant, the kind of house you would live in, the kind of house you would raise your children in.
Right.
Are you really about that?
Right.
If you celebrate these Rastafarian ideologies, but are you really about that, living that? Are you really about cutting out these things out of
Right.
Out of your diet and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, not just your diet, things that you would
That you would do. at home.
that you'd experience.
Right. Yeah.
Because things that you and I don't think about, he would see as Babylon.
Of
And that's
course.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not even
Right.
like walking into a bank. You're dealing with that.
Right.
So like there's
Kind of like off the grid.
right. Yeah.
Off
Yeah.
the grid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since you touched a little bit about the Rastafarian, we wanted to see your take on Foxy doing the Cannabis and Hemp Festival in July. Do you have how do you feel about that?
I don't feel anyhow about it. To each his own. More
Yeah.
power to you. As long, I don't know what the legal ramifications might be.
Right.
That's true.
Or how the government particularly feels about it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have. Once it's I think once it's not just a celebration of the substance itself,
Right.
and that there's some sort
A
of
purpose.
if there's some kind of cultural or
Right.
holistic or spiritual element to it, I'm all for it. Because if it's just celebrating cannabis, and it's kind of flat to me.
Yeah.
So if there's an element of things like, okay, well, the clothing that's made from hemp,
Right.
or the cannabis teas or the
The
oils,
health
and if it's
Right.
a holistic approach to it, then I think that's great. If it's just let's get together and smoke some weed, then it's kind of
Hopefully not. We'll all get high, huh?
well, I won't, but
But I'm just saying from distance. I live in King Garden Bay. So if they're all over there doing that, it might blow my way. So one of the things that we want to talk about is your balance, because you're also you're also a lecturer at the HLS Community College, and I think you head the humanities department also, right?
yeah.
And when I look at your book, I see that one is published 2017, 2018. And I think as I read one of your poems, I kind of felt like it was written after Irma.
Oh,
Maybe
it wasn't,
but it has that kind of feel.
I see why you would say, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, when do you find time to balance everything? Because your students love you. One of them sent a shout out to you. Let me tell you what it says. Okay. So, like, these students, I'm going to put the student on blast, is Dan Isher.
Tanisha.
Okay.
Tanisha, yeah.
She said he's the favorite person in HLSCC after Avril. I don't know who is Avril.
Yeah, Miss
but,
Avril Henry, yeah.
But, she has a lot of love for you. And then we had someone else that wanted me to ask you a question. And this is DJ Franchise in NC171. He says, I want to know what happened to his rap career. What was the wisdom you would have for any of the local artists who would want to transition out of the entertainment industry and back into the civil service? And then he said, congrats on that new Moco project, which we're going to talk about after. But what happened to the rap career?
Franchise, oh man. Well, Franchise was right there with me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I used to rap.
Wow.
Back before it was fashionable. No, but I think the same thing that drew me to hip hop is what draws me to poetry.
Oh, wow.
Because poetry, both poetry and hip hop can kind of seem inaccessible, can kind of seem hard to get into.
Okay.
But once you're in it, it's like you're in it.
Your heart is there.
Yeah, you can't really escape it. And I still love hip hop. I'm being a bit older now. I'm a bit of a hip hop snob.
Who would you say is your favorite hip hop artist all time? Like if you had to,
not a
like,
fair
okay,
question.
you have a ticket and you could go to this one concert, and it's your favorite artist. Who would it be? Who concert would you go to?
Okay, I'm gonna cheat the question. I'm gonna give you a top 5, so it's a top
Okay.
5.
Okay.
I think that's up for
Okay.
it.
Because there's a headliner and then there's
Yeah.
opening acts and stuff, right? That's still not a very fair question.
Uh-oh.
So 5, Nas will be there, because being a poet, especially, I think what drew me to hip hop was lyricism, and not just the different kinds of lyricism, right? So the lyricists who are, slaves to the rhyme scheme. So like your Eminems, your Royces, where every syllable is just like
Just right on.
it's like technical, it's like
Yeah.
scientific.
Yeah.
Then you have your lyricists who are they do the rhyme schemes, yes, but they're a bit more poetic. So they can break and they'll come back. So I say Nas is definitely up there because of that. Somebody else who's up there because of that, it will be Common. All these rappers are gonna be from like 95 to 98. That's a tough one. So the next 3, I think right now in my head, I'll give you more of a new school. I really loved Lupe, most of Lupe's catalog, just for the sheer lyricism was just ridiculous, and the conceptual approach to hip hop was just ridiculous. And I think someone like Kendrick is doing the concepts now, like
He just
in the
won.
mainstream.
He just won
He won a Pulitzer.
the Pulitzer. Yeah.
It's. I mean, there's a trend of singers and performers winning literary prizes, but Kendrick stuff, that's literature to begin with.
And
I
he's so
think
humble with it.
That's
It's like,
history.
man.
Yeah, he looked really humble. That's
just-
really historic.
So Kendrick's on that list too. For people who if someone puts an album out right now, me being the hip hop snob I am, would I listen to it? If it's Kendrick, yes. So we have Nas, we have Common, we have
Lupe.
Kendrick and Lupe, and that's a tough 5th pick. I guess it depends. And if you ask me this question next week, I'll give you 5 completely different answers. But I'm gonna throw Andre 3000 on that.
Okay.
On that. So and these are all lyricists who are kind of also poetic. If we want to talk about people who can just spit, then I'll be coming with like Pharaoh Monch, like your Big L, your Eminem,
His list is deep.
No, it's serious because I was a student of this thing.
Yeah.
Most people will have Jay-Z on their top 5. Right?
Oh, for sure. But it's
Jay-Z fan over there.
I am I have a complicated relationship with my hip hop.
Okay.
So to me, how to say this without getting a lot of hate messages on Facebook. To me, like Jay-Z's first album had some moments. Reasonable Doubt had some moments on it that have never been replicated.
All right.
So
Yeah.
I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you. All right, guys. I don't mean to break this up because this is such a hot conversation. It's hard to believe that we're down to the last 15 minutes of the show. I told you an hour wouldn't be enough with you. We're going to take a break. You're listening to 90.9 FM, Pulse VI, Caribbean Superstation. When we get back, Mr. Richards will talk to us about him winning the Marvin E. Williams Literary Prize from the Caribbean writer, a little bit about his project that he has going on tonight, and probably some about his MoCo project also. We have so much more to talk about. Stay there, and we'll be right back.
Pulse VI.
Hi guys, we're back, Pulse VI with Mr. Richard Georges. And before we wrap up, I just want to let everyone know that you will be able to view this on YouTube. So subscribe to our YouTube page. Hit us up on all our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, hit us up. And Mr. Georges will tell us a little bit about what he has going on tonight. Maybe he'll tell us a little bit about his many tattoos. So much more to talk about, but we only have 10 minutes. So the floor is yours, Mr. Georges.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank you guys for the opportunity to come and talk about, so many things. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for coming.
But as time is always against us, I would like to say first off that the BVI Book Fair is going on right now. And if you're in town, I would encourage you to swing by the Ritter building
Okay.
and go up to the third floor. There's a lovely group of local authors who have come out to make themselves available. I know some of you might have lost parts of your library, or you might want to be starting your local library, and there's a great opportunity to do that.
Awesome.
So the BVI Book Fair is running until about 7.
Okay.
And in the same venue, this evening we're going to have Heart and Soul, a poetry night. And this is the culmination of the MoCo Writers Workshop.
Okay.
Now, just quickly, MoCo is an online magazine of Caribbean literature and art that I started with my partner and colleague, David Knight Jr. He's in St. John, and he and his wife run an art gallery
Oh,
in St. John. So
nice.
David and his wife kind of run the art side of MoCo, and I take care of the literary side.
Okay.
So we got a grant last year to do this workshop, and we got a lot of great sponsors. I really should shout them out right now. We have the British Council, the Writers' Centre of Norwich, the International Literature Showcase, the Honourable Premier,
Wow.
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Rupert Forbes and Associates, Mrs. Judith Vanterpool and BizCom Ed, Conyers, Dylan Pearman, RDP, Roger Downing and Partner. So I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, because we really, really could not do this without them. Oh, the Department of Culture as well,
Right.
and Frangipani Studio.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we've been working really hard this week, and the poets have been enjoying their time in the BVI and as well as the workshop.
Awesome.
So we're gonna have poets performing tonight, starting at 7. But the
Okay.
door, get there for 6:30, please, because that's how you're gonna catch the end of the book fair too.
Oh, great. And how long will it go until?
We're going until about 10.
Okay, great.
And so we have poets coming from Aruba, from Puerto Rico,
Wow.
from Trinidad, from Montserrat via the U.S., from Jamaica via the U.K., and then we have a great lining of, some of our invited local poets. So we
Lovely.
have Shawande Uhuru, Shari De Castro, Daikiru Percival,
Mm-hmm.
Quincy Letsam, April Glasgow was actually a participant in the workshop.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I'm sure I've forgotten somebody, but we have a ridiculous lineup, and I'd like to encourage you guys to come out. I'll read as well, but the headliner is going to be the workshop facilitator, Mr. Raymond Antrobus, who is a deaf Jamaican British poet from Hackney, London,
Okay.
and he is ridiculously talented, both as a spoken word artist and as a written poet. So it's going to be something special to come out and see him perform.
Great. For those listening, is there going to be a cover charge?
No, it is absolutely free.
So there's no reason
No.
the house shouldn't be packed.
It is free.
It's free. There's not much to do in the BVI. This is a great opportunity to come out and just get into some good poetry and support the cause.
I want to reiterate, it's going to be at the BVI International Arbitration Center, which is the 3rd floor of the Ritter building out by the moorings.
Yes.
Just in case anyone has.
You can't miss it. It's all the way out by the water.
Exactly.
Just past the mooring, it's on your left. Okay, great. That's awesome. How long did it take you to put that together?
This together?
Yeah.
Well, we got the grant initially in July or
Okay.
August.
Right before.
And then, everything kind of.
right before Omar.
Yeah. We were about to get things together, and then everything just kind of crumbled.
Okay.
So, really, we started really pushing heavy in February
Okay.
to start getting things together, and then, the momentum kind of picked up. I would say probably March, April,
Okay.
and now we're in the thick of it, and it's almost open.
Oh, cool. And about your books? Where can persons find your books?
Well, unfortunately, Make Us All Island seems to be completely and utterly sold out.
Oh, that's a
Physical
good thing.
copy.
Yeah, physical copies. Yeah.
Do you do the ebooks? Is it on
Is it-
Amazon?
That publisher doesn't do ebooks, but I will be reordering.
Okay.
And where I'll be stocking the book now, the 2 books right now will be in Mellow Moods
Okay,
with Art
great.
Christopher.
Yeah.
So actually today I'm going to actually go and drop off. Leaving here, I'm going to take 15 copies of Giant to Mellow Moods.
All right, guys. You hear where you could pick it up at Mellow Moods.
But then I'm taking the rest of the copies to the book fair.
So,
So you can catch me at the book fair today to get it signed, or you can
Yes.
pick it up at Mellow Moods and then just catch me on social media or somewhere to try and figure out how you can get the copy signed.
okay, great. Amazon too or not?
Yes, actually, Make Us All Islands is readily available on Amazon. Giant is on there on Kindle,
Okay.
Okay.
But you can also get Giant directly from the publisher. It's probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay. Do you have a favorite poem? I mean, I'm quite sure they're probably all your babies, but
You want me to
we
read
have a
one?
couple minutes. Do you want to, which one?
You asked me to choose between kids.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I'll read this one because it's, I guess it's been one of the popular ones from Make Us All Islands. And since you can't get Make Us All Islands,
Okay.
I'll read one from that.
Thank you.
Okay. So this poem is called Oceans. I once tried to hold the ocean in my hands, in a glass. In the past, the sea would grind the bones of slaves, of sailors, into sand. Even the sand can be lessened. Like us, when cold water pushes past lips, teeth, tongue, throat, into lungs, and all is filled cold. The ocean is a universe, an abyss consuming even light in its depth. What word, what voice moving over its dark currents? In my glass, the ocean is radiant, is effervescent, a mouth tracing the body. I want to roll an ocean into a ball in my hands. I want to hold it up to my eye, to search for imperfections I know are not there. I map Africa, America, Europe, Asia, continents like opposing parentheses, enclosing nothing except the histories of too many people. A broken book of poems, stanzas falling like shards. Oceans slip out of me, Middle Passage, Kalapani. I parted your legs, and between them I discover another ocean. There is an ocean between us I cannot cross like my ancestors did, and so we all remain divided like the shores of islands. I held an ocean in my mouth. Its cresting waves tickled my palate. My tongue oared its waves, but I could go nowhere. The ocean between us has swallowed the ground, swallowed the sky, and all of this is only water.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to hear more of Richard's poetry and others, please be at the Arbitration Center this evening. As he said, the book fair is going on now until 7, and right after the book fair, it will be the poetry reading.
Heart and Soul.
Heart and Soul. You're listening to Pulse VI 90.9, Caribbean Superstation. We had a great time, and thank you, Mr. Georges, for joining us. Thank you, TravP.
TravP in the building.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We had a great time, and Mr. Georges, we'll have to have you back because, you know,
Part 2.
it was just so much in so little time, but we really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on all our social media platforms. TravP, what's your last word?
Be safe. Have a good weekend. Go out and support tonight, please. We need to support the arts.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Have a good day.
She be the heart of the PA. Feel the pulse and you will see why. Where I from, we do it B.I.G. On each other we could rely. Feel the pulse of the VI. Listen close and you will see why. The information will set you free. Stand together, never divide. Pulse VI.